Okay, welcome back to Defense Diaries. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and this is our continuing coverage of Brian Kohberger and bonus coverage of Kouri Richins. I called the court administrator. I got the password to be able to get into the WebEx. I'm going to throw it up there in the middle of a motion to suppress hearing. I believe they're trying to suppress, they being the defense, is trying to suppress any information that they got from Kouri Richins' phone. The state has just made their argument. It is the defense's motion, but it's typical that the state will call their cops because they have the initial burden to show that it was a valid search. So let me pull it up real quick. It sounds super crisp. There's no video, just sound.
Or maybe wait till one through one before you. Yeah.
Oh wait, wrong thing. Oops.
Which exhibits the court relies on making its findings is yet to be determined. Susan Esther, my apologies. Please proceed.
No problem. May it please the court. Good morning, Detective Maynard. How are you? My name is Kathy Nestor. I'm one of the attorneys representing Ms. Richins this morning. I would like to start by your assignment that day. You mentioned you were there to assist in monitoring anyone coming or going during the execution of a warrant, right?
Prior to the execution.
And just to be very clear for the record, the warrant was a search warrant.
Is there audio?
Is that
Can you guys hear it?
You did not have an arrest warrant for Kouri Richins, did you? Did you look at the search warrant before you did your assignment that day? Did you read it?
Yes.
Okay. Show that really quickly. May I approach, Your Honor?
Of course.
Detective, I'm here. It's called affidavit for it. You got for just a moment.
Mr. Bloodworth, forgive me when I ask this from time to time. Does this one have a number?
It's not, Your Honor. This
Okay.
is the warrant for the house.
May we mark it as 150 just for the purposes of having a record review?
Sure.
Any objection? Okay,
Exhibit 150, Your Honor.
please.
I'll put a sticker on it before we finish the day out.
Okay, we're gonna call this the warrant for the house.
Do you recognize that warrant?
This is an affidavit.
Okay, I think the warrant's on the back of it. But had you reviewed the affidavit or not? Just
No.
the warrant?
No.
Okay, if you flip a couple pages, I think the warrant's next.
Okay.
See if you recognize it. And just to clarify, there were 2 warrants that day. I'm going to show you the second one, so I'm not sure if you reviewed both. So if you don't recognize it, that's fine.
Just so y'all know, they have not started streaming anything from Kohberger. That's why we're getting this bonus coverage. The thing I'm curious about is if you guys are just hearing the sound from my speaker or if you're hearing the stream.
There. All right, let me show you another one. And just for the record, that we're gonna mark that exhibit 150.
You want this all back?
All
Jen, take. All right, the warrant we just looked at was a warrant to search the house for fentanyl. Is that right? You just
Yes.
looked at it? Okay, so now I'm showing you another warrant. This is part of exhibit 1.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Can you take a look at that one and tell me if you recognize that one?
All right, here's this will answer the question. I'm going to mute me. Tell me if you can still hear it. She's not speaking right now. Yeah, so it's definitely coming through my mic.
April the 12th of what year, sir?
2022.
All right, let me
Okay.
see if I can figure
And
this
you
out.
guys executed the warrant the next day, right? The 13th, lucky 13th, right? Okay. If you go back to the first page of this warrant, again, this is exhibit 1 of the government's exhibits. I won't renumber it with our own, we'll just use theirs. This is a warrant for the premises of the house, 282 Willow Court. Is that Ms. Richins' home?
Yes,
Okay. And it's also for the person of Kouri Richins, is that right?
correct.
And it says that you're looking for electronics, phones, watches, computers, that type of thing, right?
Yes,
So, you reviewed that warrant and that was your authority by which you pulled her over, is that right?
that's correct.
So let's talk about when you saw her leave. When you saw her leave the house, they live on a cul-de-sac, is that right?
That's correct.
Kind of at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Yes, ma'am.
So you watched her go to the stop sign, right?
Yes,
And turn, I think, right.
correct.
And were you in a marked police car?
I was not
It was an undercover police car.
unmarked, correct.
I'm sorry, unmarked. I get my terminology mixed up. An unmarked police car. But it had a siren you could put on or lights on your
It
front
has lights, red and blue lights.
that are like in the grill.
All right, I'm going to try to do this so that I'm from the browser. Let me see. Because I was on the app. I think that's what the issue is.
Yep. He figured it out. He is a tech wizard.
I mean,
Wireless? The what? It is- I'm coming out anyway.
okay. All right. Okay. All right, this should work. Okay. Okay. I think I did it.
The window, did you tell Ms. Richins, I'm a police officer or I'm a sheriff? What did you say?
Yes, I identified myself and just told her that I was detaining her for a minute. for a short period of time until some other investigators arrived to execute a search warrant.
But did you tell her who you worked for? Like, did you say, I'm a detective, I'm a deputy?
Yes,
What did you say?
I'm Detective Maynard with the Summit County Sheriff's Office.
Perfect. That's what I needed. Okay. When you told her that, you mentioned that you knew that one of the things you were looking for was a phone, right?
Correct.
Where did you see that phone?
I believe it was in her hands, her lap.
Do you remember that? Or
Yes,
okay, it was in her lap. All right. So when you told her did you tell her to get out of the car?
yeah, I asked her to come out of the vehicle and come sit in my car with me.
Did you tell her she had the right to refuse to get out of her car?
I did not.
Were you wearing a gun?
Yes, I was.
Was it in plain view that you had a gun on?
That would have been covered up by a coat.
Okay. But you did, sorry, I had coffee this morning. So you did not tell her she had a choice. You said, get out of the car.
Yes,
And you removed her from her vehicle.
I did.
And what happened to her phone when she got out of the vehicle?
She left it in the car.
Right. Did you tell her to leave it in the car?
I don't recall.
So you know the phone's in the car. What happened to her car keys?
They were left in the vehicle as well.
So you separated her from her car keys and her phone.
Yes,
And you walked her to your vehicle. Is that right?
I did.
All right. And did you give her an option about getting into your vehicle, or did you tell her to get into her vehicle?
I don't remember the words I used. I asked her to get into my vehicle.
Okay. Did you tell her at any point she was free to leave?
I did not.
Okay. And I believe you testified when you were talking to Mr. Bloodworth that about 60 seconds went by from the time you first engaged her till you got her in your car, right?
Best of my recollection, yes.
And in that 60 seconds, did you give her her Miranda rights?
I did not.
And you know what the Miranda rights are, of course.
Sure,
Right? And you never read her her rights.
I did not.
All right. And I think you've already testified she was not in handcuffs, but she was in your police car.
Correct.
And the video that you took, were you trying to hide it? Is that why it was down in a weird place?
No, I just wanted to document what was going on in the vehicle.
Okay. And at any point, the whole time that you were with her in the vehicle, and I know that there is a video and I'm going to play a little piece of it. I'm not going to play the whole video, but for purposes of the judge, at any point that she was in your car for about 20 plus minutes, did you ever read her Miranda rights?
No.
Okay. All right. I want to show you the first 5 minutes of the car. And there's several things that you say to her. Alex, if you could play that video. Do we have a, I need to, are you
Hold on.
hooked up to the
No,
screen?
I just need to wait for
Oh, can we put the screen on?
We can. One moment. Yeah, we put it on the TV.
I think I'm connected. I just need her to turn it on.
Mr. Ramos, do you see the video on your screen?
I do, Judge.
Ms. Sherbanek?
Yes.
Okay, we'll replicate that on the big screen.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You can see it in front of you, Detective.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
May I just test the audio real quick, Judge?
yeah, let's see how it goes.
Make sure I haven't turned my audio off because I was on Zoom and I had to do that. Leaving the house?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, if you could just rewind that. So actually, it's kind of hard to understand the very first thing she says, but do you remember her asking you initially, is my sister-in-law trying to take my house?
Yes,
That was the first thing she said when you guys got in the car. And you said, I don't think so, right? I think that's on there, but we'll
Yes.
just listen to it. Your Honor, I'd like to, go
One
ahead.
moment. Go ahead, Mr. Bloodworth.
Your Honor, just for the court's ease in following along, a transcript
Yeah, we do have a
of
transcript.
this video is at tab 4 of the binder.
Okay.
I will provide that to Mr. Maynard too, just a
I
moment.
think I've got it.
Oh, you got it in front of you?
Which page of the transcript are we starting on?
The very first page, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to get my copy too. Let me grab it.
And the video's 3, Your Honor.
Yep.
And again, Your Honor, we're only gonna play like 5.5 minutes.
It's fine.
You could indulge us. We're not gonna play the whole thing. Let me find it right here. What did you say the number was?
Tab 4.
4. Yeah, that's it. Okay, go ahead, Alex. And then if you could, Alex, stop when I ask you to stop, okay?
Trying to take the house.
I don't think so.
And that's her body you can see there, just part of her sweatshirt.
Yes.
And that's the thing for the laptop that's blocking the view.
Yeah.
Is the lady, the one lady coming that I've been talking to, detective?
Can you turn it up at all, Alex?
Woody?
Yes.
Yes. She's coming over so sharp.
Why didn't she just talk to me on the phone? Why didn't I just go? What is going on?
I don't know. I'm still looking out, okay?
What are you talking on my door?
Huh?
I mean, you just knocked on my door.
What?
What is this about?
Like I said, I'll just let the detective explain it when they get here, okay?
He does look like he uses Just for Men. He's got a very dark beard.
You just call my mom.
I just need to sit with you here until they get here.
Okay, stop. Did you hear just then when you said, I know it's really quiet. I don't know if the TV can be turned any louder. I think my computer's as loud as it will go. But did you hear yourself, you need to just sit here until they get here? Did you hear that?
I said, I just need to sit here with you.
Until they get here. All right. So at 1 minute and 38 seconds into your give or take, while you have her in your car, you tell her that she needs to wait and sit with you, right? Okay, keep playing, Alex, please.
Oh,
Need some air?
I know I'm right in front of my neighbor's house. Like, this is so embarrassing. I don't want any air. Tell me not to go down. Tell me not to just go. Does that mean I'm arrested for something?
No, you're not arrested.
Okay, if we could stop there for just a minute. So what she, looking at the transcript, it appears that what she just said was, and I know you could kind of hear it a little bit, but she said detained. Does that mean I'm arrested or something? So had you told her when you first brought her in the car that she was detained briefly?
I told her that at the window.
So she's following up and saying detained. Does that mean I'm arrested for something? And you responded, no, you're not arrested, right?
Correct.
Okay, keep playing, Alex.
No.
At this point, Ms. Richins does not know she's being recorded on a phone, right? You didn't tell her you were
I didn't
recording
tell her
her.
no.
Okay.
It's because my sister's lost stuff at my house.
Stop.
What's that?
So again, under the transcript, and you could barely hear it, but she says, is this because my sister-in-laws want all the stuff out of my house, right?
Correct, that's what she said.
Okay, keep going, Alex, please.
It's because my sister lost all the stuff at my house.
I,
We can take it.
I don't know about that. If you're not handcuffs, just detain.
Okay, stop
No,
right
I
there.
don't know what that.
You just said, look, you're not in handcuffs, you're just detained for a minute, okay? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so once again, you're telling her she's detained for the second time and have not told her she's free to leave, right?
Correct.
Okay, keep playing, please, Alex.
I don't know what is going on.
Like eyes on, has a picture of leaving house, so she is in hands right now. We'll still plan on staging the same location, same time. We'll see case 30 go back to the house, make sure everything's secure, and then I'll head over to the fire building and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Why would I be in handcuffs anyway? I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, I just need to hold on to you till I get here to talk, okay?
Okay, stop right there. So what you just told her, she asked, why would I be in handcuffs anyway? I don't know what you're talking about. And you said, okay, I just need to hold on to you till they get here to talk, okay? Isn't that what you just said?
Yes, ma'am.
So once again, you're telling her she has to remain.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need on that right now, Alex, thanks. Okay, so then you remain a little bit longer, maybe another 15 minutes. I don't want to play the whole video. But when she arrives, that is, you're waiting on, I don't know if her title is Detective, Investigator Woody, Detective Woody to arrive, right?
Correct.
And at one point, Detective Woody or Investigator Woody does arrive. Is that right?
Yes.
And when she arrives, Ms. Richins is still seated in the car, right?
She is.
And you're
yes.
still video recording.
Correct.
And they have a little conversation that's on your recording.
Correct.
At no time did Detective Woody issue Miranda rights, did she, in your presence?
Not in my presence, no.
And then at some point, Detective Woody instructs Kouri to get out of the car, right?
My recollection is she asked Kouri to exit the vehicle.
Okay. And that's maybe less than 30 minutes, but more than 20 minutes from the time you detained her, right?
Your Honor, this is all recorded. The time is all recorded in the video. I think memory test of time that is clearly recorded is unproductive.
May I ask you a related question?
Mhm.
Any argument that the transcript is inaccurate?
No.
Okay,
No, we could just,
I can read it.
so at some point you guys get out of the car and you no longer have your phone recording, right?
When I left the car, I believe I left my phone in the car recording.
And I believe you said that you were behind Detective Woody and Ms. Richins as you all walked to her car. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And again, in between the time you walked from your car to her car, did anybody tell Kouri Richins she was free to leave?
I didn't.
Did you hear Detective Woody?
No, ma'am.
All right. And then did you hear Detective Woody instruct Kouri to hand her her phone
I heard her ask her if she could go get her phone.
out of the vehicle?
I just heard her ask her if they could go get their phone.
Right. And the phone
Your
was in,
Honor, again, this is all on the recording and in the transcript.
I think she just may be laying foundation, but we can, if you can just keep it moving.
I will. So the phone was in her vehicle, which she returned to at the direction of Officer Woody in your presence.
She gave it to Officer Woody or Detective Woody, and Detective Woody handed it to me.
And she got it by leaning into the car and getting it.
Can we have some specificity about who she is?
Sorry, there's two women. Thank you. Ms. Richins handed the phone to Detective Woody. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay. That means she had to go in the car to get it because you
Sure.
left it there,
Correct.
right?
Mhm.
Okay. At that point, you mentioned that Detective Woody gave the phone to you. Is that
Yes, ma'am.
right? And she asked you to keep it?
She asked me to hang on to it. She had lots of things in her hands.
And when you took that phone, you had reviewed the warrant that we just went over, right?
Yes.
And that warrant didn't authorize you to search any vehicles, did it?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but you took the phone anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you guys go back to the house, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you let Kouri drive her own car back?
Yes.
Right. And when she arrived, how long before you engaged with her again?
Would have been less than 5 minutes.
Did you follow her in your car?
I don't recall. I was behind her, so I can't say.
Okay. So when you guys get to the house, about how many officers were in the vicinity?
If I had to guess, 10-ish.
Okay.
There were quite a few of us.
They're all dressed in police clothing or detectives or deputies and law enforcement
They're
clothing.
wearing marked items of clothing to indicate that they're law enforcement.
And there was law enforcement vehicles there.
Correct.
And she pulls into her driveway. Did you hear any instructions she was given about whether she could stay, whether she had to leave, anything?
At the house?
Yes.
I didn't hear any instructions there, no.
So when you next engaged her, where was she?
In the garage.
In the house where the search was going on, right?
In the garage of that house, yes.
And there were officers in the garage, more than one.
I don't recall. I know I was there.
And when you went up to her, you asked her to tell you the passcode to her car, her phone, right?
At that point, she had wanted to be able to get some contact phone numbers out of her phone.
And you're saying that's why you asked her for the passcode?
No, I asked her for the passcode so we could have it.
Why did you need it?
But we have a warrant for her. We had a warrant at that time for her phone.
And you wanted to open it up and look in it?
No, it's just easier when you have the passcode
Easier to do what?
to get into the phone.
Right. So that's why you got the passcode from her.
Sure.
Okay. And you mentioned on your testimony that at the time you did that, Ms. Richins was not being detained. Is that right?
That's correct.
And when you finished all your duties that day, you did a report, did you not?
I did.
And it's important in your training, you're taught that every detail matters in your reports. Is that right?
Yes.
And the chronology matters in your reports. Is that right?
Yes.
And you know that because you're an experienced detective, right?
Yes, I know that.
And you prepared a report maybe a day or two later. Is that right? Or that's like the next day, it looks like.
I don't remember which day it
May I
was.
approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm approaching Detective Maynard with, can we mark this because the government doesn't have it? I think it's 151 now. Is that
Sounds
right?
good. May I have a copy to market?
So let me approach. And I'm handing
Oh, thank
you a
you.
document that
So,
appears to
I
be the
cannot
report
pause
that he
this.
made.
That's why I'm not
It
kind of
appears to be the
adding
report
some
that you made
analysis.
following your duties that day. Is that right?
Yes,
really
You
interesting.
recognize that report?
I do.
Can you tell by looking at it when you prepared it?
It's timestamped the next day.
Okay, so a day later.
Correct.
All right, and if you can go down in that first paragraph
Kohberger is not live
Um,
yet. I have it up. I'm looking at
to
it.
the,
Kohberger is not live yet.
let's
When it
see.
goes live, we will switch.
All right, so first of all, it does say in here that you initiated a traffic stop and I made contact with Kouri and informed her I was detaining her until the case agent arrived to speak with her. Is that right?
Correct.
That's consistent with what you've testified to, correct?
Correct.
right, and then if you can go down a few more lines where it says, Kouri gave her phone to Detective Woody and I held on to it for a short period of time. Do you see that?
I do.
And then you say I turned the phone back over to Detective Woody at the home.
I did.
Okay, and can you read the next 3 sentences of your report?
I asked Kouri what the passcode to the phone was, and she voluntarily gave it to me. I also gave that to Detective Woody.
Keep reading.
At that point, I released Kouri from my custody and went to the home.
So according to your report, she was in your custody until she gave you the passcode. Your own words.
Custody was a poor choice of words on my part.
It's the ones you used, right?
I used that word in the report, but she clearly wasn't in my custody.
So your report's wrong?
That was a mistake on my part to use that word.
And here you don't say anything about her asking you for phone numbers, do you?
I don't.
And when you say she voluntarily gave it to you, did you tell her she had a right to refuse?
I did not.
Did you tell her she had a right to remain silent?
I did not.
Did you tell her she had a right to ask for a lawyer?
I did not.
It's an issue. It's an issue.
Okay. And that'll be Exhibit 51 offered by the defense, Your Honor, the report.
151.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Thank you.
May I
151.
have that?
You want both these?
That one I have.
That was the second one.
Yeah.
Because the issue is going to be, did
This
Kouri
one.
Richins
Court's indulgence
feel
for
that
just a
she
moment,
was-
Your Honor.
Of course.
free to leave? And this does not sound like she was free to leave, which would mean she's in custody, which means that she has to be Mirandized, which means they took the phone before they got the warrant. This is a legitimate motion to suppress her.
The phone that you took from Detective Woody and then eventually gave back to her, can you describe it? What kind of phone was it?
I have no idea. I can't remember.
Okay, that's fine. What did you do with it? Did you ever put it in an evidence bag or seal it or put it in what's called a Faraday bag?
I did not.
Do you know what a Faraday bag is?
I do.
What is a Faraday bag?
My understanding is it basically kind of encapsulates the phone so that it can't transmit or receive cellular signal.
Okay, so you did not do that.
I did not.
Once you got the passcode, did you open the phone yourself?
I did not.
Did you ever look in it at all?
I'd not looked at her phone, no.
All right, that's all I have. You're going to tender the witness back to Mr. Bloodworth.
Mr. Bloodworth, anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Detective, you can step down. May we release this witness, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're free to go, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, there was some very damning evidence, as you can imagine, as most times is
Now,
the
an
case.
appropriate time for a restroom break.
Your Honor, the state intends to call Detective Woody next. My sense is that witness in an hour.
Yeah, why don't we take a restroom break and then maybe a lunch break after Detective Woody? Okay, let's do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll come back at 12:05, folks. Thank you. Please follow the deputy's instructions. Sam, we're off the records. Thank you. Court's in recess. Thank you.
All right, so 10-minute break. They're mountain time out there. This is Utah. You're late to the stream, even though I have the scroller down there. Utah versus Kouri Richins, motion to suppress. We are killing some time, waiting for Kohberger to start. I've got it up. I'm looking at it. It is live in terms of my screen, meaning that I'm live and it's still closed hearing. So as that progresses, at some point, we will switch over to that as well. We'll leave Richins. This Richins thing, if you don't know anything about Kouri Richins, Allison and I have done a couple of lives about it, 2 or 3. another jacked up, crazy, insane case. She is alleged to have dosed her husband with a lethal dose of fentanyl in his Moscow Mule that she made for him. Kind of the motive seems to be money in terms of why she may have killed her husband and father of her children. She then turned around after he died and wrote a children's book for her kids about how to mourn the loss of their father. So it's pretty warped. It's a pretty insane case. So some of the critical evidence that could be suppressed. This is not a bullshit motion to suppress. I'm just telling you right now. This is that whole thing where the judge is going to have to make the determination as to whether or not Kouri Richins was in custody. Because if she was in custody, okay, and that doesn't like it's a totality of the circumstances type situation the judge is going to have to land on. If he finds that she was in custody and they did not Mirandize her, letting her know her rights when she's just turning over her phone, it's going to be an issue. And from what I've seen with this judge, he follows the law. And some of the things that they will lose are some of the text messages between Kouri and the dealer that she allegedly secured the fentanyl from, not once, but twice. Obviously, that is powerful circumstantial evidence, especially in a case where they need that in order to show that Kouri was the one who had the fentanyl to dose him with. Because if you know anything about it, and this is the case with the walk the dog letter that we did a live on last week, where, you know, she's claiming that that was a work of fiction, that she's writing a book, and that, you know, that was just one of the plot points, that she's intertwined fact and fiction. And, you know, that was where she was saying, look, my brother has to tell this story that Eric had secured, that he was, you know, on the DL, you know, doing fentanyl gummies, and had an issue with it, and that he was securing those gummies from this ranch that he worked at. And, you know, so they need this evidence of Kouri securing this fentanyl to really flesh out the case for them. Because again, if you've got a jury who has no idea what's going on about this case, and you're missing that key component of her securing the fentanyl, and the defense is putting on a witness that's saying, oh yeah, Eric had an issue with drugs and gummies, weed gummies, fentanyl gummies. You can see how that would be very, very problematic for the state. So this is a really big motion that's being argued today. And what we've heard thus far, unfortunately, we missed the direct of the first cop that was on the stand. The second cop, who's Woody, will be called by the state. They're going to call him first. And even though in a defense motion, it's a burden shift. So once the motion is filed by the defense saying, okay, we're alleging that your cops violated this person's constitutional rights, that it was an illegal search, the burden shifts over to the state to show that it was a valid search, that it was a legal search. So that's why you're hearing the state put on the cops first, as opposed to the defense having to put the cops on and then trying to struggle through a direct examination of what I would consider to be not friendly witnesses. So that's what we're going to hear after lunch. They're going to put on the second detective, this Detective Woody, who, and there was, it was questionable how much body worn cam footage there is, how much audio there is. I think there might have been some. I think we used some of it in our live last week. And if you haven't checked that out, it's really kind of a primer on the case. I give a pretty detailed timeline starting from when Kouri and her husband got married all the way up through the time that he is deceased. And it's worth your time. It's really an interesting case, and it's a case that we're going to be covering pretty thoroughly, because I find it to be a very interesting one. Let's see, polygraph Bob, we've got a lot of really big trials coming up this year. Yes, we do. As a defense guy, which if any do you think stand a chance? They all almost certain to be found guilty to me. Yeah, it's interesting. And Polly, I could give you a much better answer after we get through all of the pretrial motion work that needs to be done on all the big cases. Because where it stands now, I mean, you are basically basing your opinion, I would assume, on what you've heard in the media and on TV shows, Datelines, and all the various things that you've heard. So what you're hearing about now does not mean what's going to be heard at trial. That's why I'm always talking about the real war in any of these cases is in these hearings. This hearing today is the real war. Like, this is the fight to keep evidence out. This is exactly what I'm always talking about. That is so critical, because what ends up being admissible at trial is not necessarily what you've heard the evidence is going to be. So you always need to wait until all of these pretrial hearings are done and then see where the evidence is at that point. And then you can kind of determine it, because your gut on whether or not somebody did it doesn't really count for much. I mean, you're certainly allowed to have your opinions, as I do, on many cases. You know, like as far as Hewerman, I think they got the right guy there. Does that mean that they're not going to be trying to attack the DNA in that case? I'm sure they are. But based on the investigation and what was contained in the bail application over there, I feel, and it's just that, like, that is not my legal opinion. That is my personal opinion. I believe that they got the right guy there. Kohberger, I need to hear way more. I need to, like, this whole IGG thing. I have to hear it. I have to hear it. Allie was on early, Lynette, and she, being the amazing partner in life, she's actually taking my dad to a doctor's appointment. Hopefully, if we're still going, she'll join back up. But she dipped out about a half hour ago. Actually, she dipped out when we ended our first stream. So again, if you're late to the party, we were waiting on Kohberger to start. In the interim, we were on a break for the audio only portion of today's hearing in Utah versus Kouri Richins, which I think is a fascinating case. And I think if you guys dig into it, you'll think it's a fascinating case as well. Tragic as they all are, but fascinating. It's twisted. It's a twisted one. You know, it's another one of those cases like get a divorce, but the real motive here seems to be money. Kouri had way overextended herself financially in terms of mortgages and loans that were coming due, because she was in the business of flipping properties. She was buying properties, rehabbing, turning around and selling them. So she was in heavy debt. Now, that in and of itself isn't that smoking gunish type of evidence, in that if you're familiar with that business, you're always going to be far less liquid, because you have to take the loans out, and it's typically a loan to not only buy the property, but also to pay for the cost of rehab. And then you've got the situation where you've got this gap in time where you're doing the rehab work. You got to get it on the market, and then you got to sell it. Then you're paying off the loan, whatever money that you make on the sale. Obviously, you're buying it for under value. You're improving it, hoping that you'll be able to sell it at a profit. And then you turn around, you typically invest that money right back into the next property. But she had a lot of properties, quite a few properties out there at the same time, which I think is always a potential for disaster. If you're kind of like a single person, one person, two person entity trying to do that, to overextend yourself is dangerous, where you got multiple projects going at the same time. So, but it does seem to be an issue. Another element of the Richins case, which is fascinating, is that she thought she was
okay.
going to be the trustee of Eric's business, because that was left his portion of the business. He had a very successful business like stonemasonry that he had a partner with, and he had not made her the trustee of the trust in the event that he passed away, which she did not know.
Mr. Bloodworth, are we ready to go?
All right, so we're about to
Yes, Your Honor,
pick it
we're
up.
Ready to call.
Okay.
Next witness.
Brittany, are we on the record? All right, let's call the state's next witness, please.
Your Honor, the state calls Detective Jamie Woody.
Detective, if you'd step in front of Brittany, we'll get you sworn in.
If you'll please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Detective Woody.
Good afternoon.
Are you a canine patrol deputy with the Summit County Sheriff's Office?
I am.
Back on April the 13th, 2022, were you a detective with the Summit County Sheriff's Office?
I was.
And at that time, were you the lead detective investigating the death of Eric Richins?
Yes, sir.
And at about 10 o'clock on the morning of April the 13th, 2022, were you preparing to execute a search warrant on the Willow Court address where Ms. Richins then resided and on the defendant's person?
I was.
At about 10 a.m. that morning, where were you physically preparing to execute that warrant?
At the sheriff's office.
And were you planning how you were going to execute the warrant at that time?
We were.
Did there come a time right about 10 o'clock when you received word that Deputy Maynard had stopped the defendant a short distance from her home?
Yes.
What did you do upon receiving that word?
I proceeded over to that location.
To the location of the stop.
Correct.
Once you were at the location of the stop, what did you observe?
I observed Kouri in the vehicle, the detective's vehicle.
And was she in the front passenger seat?
I believe so, yes.
Did you record this interaction with the defendant at all?
I did an audio recording.
Have you recently reviewed that audio recording?
I have.
And is that audio recording a fair and accurate representation, meaning it's not been altered at all?
Correct.
Your Honor, that audio recording is found at Exhibit 5 in the state's binder. A transcript of that audio recording is found at Exhibit 6. At any time during this interaction with the defendant, did you observe her in handcuffs?
No,
Did you place her under arrest?
I did not.
Did you observe her crying? Did you observe any tears?
I did not observe any tears, but she sounded like she was crying.
But no tears?
No.
Do you recall a time when you asked the defendant if she wanted to come with you and grab her cell phone?
I do.
What happened then?
We walked over to her car, and I believe she reached in and grabbed the phone and handed it to me.
When she handed you the phone, or as she was handing you the phone, do you recall a discussion about the phone's case?
I do.
Can you turn, there's an exhibit binder in front of you. You can turn, please, to tab 6 of that exhibit binder. Is that a transcript of the audio recording of your interaction at this time and date with the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Can you turn please to page 11, look at line 1, right at the very top, where you say, do you want to come with me and grab your phone real quick?
Okay.
And is that the the point where she exited Detective Maynard's truck and walked with you to her car
Correct.
and reached into her car and retrieved her telephone?
Yes, sir.
Do you see down at line 11 where you asked, do you want to take it out of the case or not?
Yeah, I see that.
At the point you ask that, who is holding the phone?
Kouri is.
And why did you ask her if she wanted to take the phone out of the case?
I usually ask that if there's something attached to it, cards, driver's license, something like that, that I don't want to take with me.
Ultimately, she did not remove the phone from the case.
Not that I recall.
And after you asked her, do you want to remove the phone from the case, that is when she handed you the phone?
Yes, sir.
Please turn the page to 12. I want to clarify one thing. On line 9, it talks about an unidentified male speaker. Is that male speaker Detective Maynard?
It is.
At line 10, you say, kind of in a conversation that's unclear, I'm looking to clarify it here. You say, give you that, and then I. Is the that in line 10 the cell phone?
Check deleting.
Overruled.
Correct.
If you could please read below to line 13. At this point in time, it appears you're speaking to the defendant. You say, then he'll follow you back and you can do that. Is the hill Detective Maynard in that sentence?
It is.
Is the that provide you with phone numbers out of your cell phone?
Correct.
After your audio recording, where do you go?
I go over to Becky's house.
And Becky was Becky an employee of Eric Richins' company that had some electronic devices that you were interested in recovering?
Yes, sir.
And is Becky's house right in front or right off the street where Detective Maynard stopped the
Yes,
defendant?
It was.
So you wanted to walk straight from the stop kind of to the closest house
Correct.
to retrieve some electronic gear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When your audio recording stops, do you have any other interaction with the defendant at the location of Detective Maynard's stop?
Not that I recall.
When do you next have any interaction with the defendant?
At the home, at the Willow, I think it's Willow Court.
The Willow Court address. Okay. What interaction do you have with the defendant at the Willow Court address?
I believe we asked if she would either provide the safe code or open the safe up at the home.
And did she?
She did. She wanted to ask a few questions and ask about the warrant and what we found and stuff.
Okay, set the scene. What are you doing at the home?
I'm walking around trying to help serve the search warrant.
At this point in time, other than asking for a safe code, are you at all questioning the defendant?
No, sir.
You said she was asking you questions. What does this look like? What are you doing and how is she asking you questions?
We're just kind of walking back and forth to the safes, and she's kind of following behind me, asking different questions.
What types of questions?
Questions about the warrant. I think questions about what we were looking for, what we found, things like that.
At this point in time, what was your interest at the house?
Just to serve the warrant.
At this point in time, were you at all wanting to interact with the defendant?
No, sir.
What did you want to do?
I just wanted to serve the warrant and finish it.
No further questions, John.
That was brief.
Business.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name's Kathy Nestor. I'm one of the attorneys representing Ms. Richins. I do have some questions for you today.
Okay.
I want to talk about the search of the home. You were the person that went and asked the judge to issue a warrant, correct?
Correct.
And the way that process works is you fill out an affidavit a sworn affidavit saying all the facts that you believe support a search of the home. Is that right?
Correct.
And you specifically tell the judge what it is you would like to search, correct?
Correct.
I'm sorry. And then you also tell the judge what you're looking for generally, right?
Correct.
To try to keep it narrow as you can, right?
Correct.
And in this case, before you all showed up at the house and executed these warrants, at that point you had gotten 2 warrants, is that right? Signed by judges.
I believe so.
Okay. The first warrant you got maybe 2 days before that authorized a search for fentanyl and any kind of mailing or tracking instruments that would indicate purchasing something, right?
I believe so.
And then the second warrant you got, and again, before you executed, was asking to search the home and Ms. Richins' person for electronics such as phones, computers, things like that. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Neither of those warrants did you seek authority to search a vehicle. Is that right?
Not in those 2 that I remember.
Okay. As a matter of fact, you went back later while you're in the middle of your search and asked a judge to issue a third warrant authorizing you to search vehicles. Is that right?
That sounds correct.
And do you remember what time you did that?
I do not.
Okay. And was that warrant issued?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And did you go ask for that to be issued after you got back to the house, after you had already talked to Kouri with with Detective Maynard?
Yes, it was after we left the stop.
So at the time that you got the phone out of Kouri's vehicle, you did not have a warrant authorizing the search of any vehicle. Is that right?
I didn't get the phone out of the car.
Okay. We'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
When you were at the car with Kouri,
Uh-huh.
you did not have a warrant authorizing you to search a vehicle, correct?
No, ma'am.
And in fact, you knew you needed another warrant because later that day you went back and got another one, right? That authorized vehicles.
Objection, Your Honor. That needed another warrant is unclear as to why she needed a warrant. The implication that she needed another warrant to search the car is unfounded.
I'm going to allow you to answer the question. I can weigh the testimony as needed. If you need it or repeat it.
I do.
Okay, so you knew you needed a third warrant to be able to search vehicles and actually went back and got a third warrant, correct?
For the vehicles at the house, yes.
Correct. Okay. All right, I want to talk about when you first arrived, where Ms. Richins was seated in the vehicle. You had an audio recorder on,
Yes, ma'am.
but not video?
I did not.
Okay. And the transcript the government has referred to, the state, I'm so sorry, that the state has referred to, is it in front of you?
Mhm.
Yes?
It is, yes.
Okay, great. All right, so can we turn to page let's see here. All right, can we turn to page 7? Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
Are you looking at is this exhibit 1?
6, Your Honor.
My
6,
apologies.
yes, 6. Sorry, I should have said that. Thank you, Your Honor. Let me back up even further than that, just a minute. Okay, so let's go to page 3, where Corey's asking you what's going on. And starting at line 7, what do you tell her the purpose of your search is?
To make sure that there's nothing there, there's nothing dangerous, and there's nothing dangerous for her and the kids.
And when you say nothing dangerous, you were talking about what?
Drugs.
Specifically, what kind of drugs?
I don't know if it says in the warrant or not, but in this instance, I was talking about fentanyl.
Fentanyl. So you're telling her that you're checking to make sure there's no dangerous fentanyl in her house that could harm her or her children. Is that right?
Correct.
And in fact, you guys kind of had a conversation about how if there's just any little bit of fentanyl, it can be super dangerous, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sure.
And then if you could go to page 5. No, I'm sorry, not page 5. I think it's page 7. Sorry, page 7. Line 16. And you ask her, do you have a phone with you? Is that right?
Correct.
And this is when she's still sitting in the car being
Correct.
detained, right? And then she answers, I have my phone. Yeah. And what do you ask her?
I asked her, is it in your pocket?
And what does she say?
She says, we have phones. We have no, it's in my car.
It's in my car. Okay. So there's really no dispute that at the point she's sitting in that car, it was not on her person, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then if you go forward to page 11 at the very top, you say to her, do you want to come with me and grab your phone real quick? Is that right?
Correct.
All right. Prior to that, did you ever give her her Miranda rights?
I did not.
Did you ever tell her that she had an option whether she cooperated with you or not?
I don't believe I did say anything like that.
What were you wearing that day?
I was wearing a blue shirt, like a polo, and a black jacket, and I usually had either gray or khaki pants.
All right. And on that blue shirt, there's an insignia for the Summit County Sheriff's Department. Is that right?
Correct, but it's covered by the jacket.
And the jacket identifies you as law enforcement?
It does not.
It does not. Did you tell her? She knows you're law enforcement, right?
She should, yes.
Because you guys had talked before.
We have, yes.
You had asked her to be interviewed, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you knew she had a lawyer
Correct.
because you had talked to her lawyer about arranging an interview with her.
Correct.
And you knew she had a lawyer at the time you were talking to her that day out on the street, right?
Correct.
And did you advise her she had a right to call that lawyer and get advice?
I did not.
Okay. All right. And then on the last page, page 12, I'm sorry, you guys walked to the car. Is that right? Together?
Correct.
Where were you standing when you guys walked to the car?
I don't remember.
And when you got to the car, where was the phone?
I don't remember.
It wasn't on her. It was in the
Correct.
car.
Correct.
And you asked her to hand you the phone. Is that right?
Your Honor, again, this is recorded, or I guess it depends where.
The transcript says what it says. What's your question, Ms. Nestor?
You asked her to hand you the phone.
I would have to look. I can't remember
Okay.
exactly what I said.
Let's look at page 11. Where you say, do you want to take it out of the case or not, right?
Correct?
And then you take the phone from her. So you didn't even ask her, you just took it. Because it looks like you're not asking her, you just take it from her.
No, I asked if she wanted the case, and then she handed it towards me.
Okay. And did you tell her before that she didn't have to?
I did not.
Okay. And when she handed you her phone, you then told her that Detective Maynard would follow her back to the house. Is that right?
I'd have to look. I may have.
Look at the last page, page 12.
Correct. I did say he would follow you back.
All right. And he did follow her back, did he not?
I assume so. I wasn't there at that point. I don't think.
Oh, because you'd gone to Becky's house?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you arrive? Were you in a police car when you got there or a sheriff's car?
I assume I was in my unmarked vehicle.
So at what point did you give the phone back to Detective Maynard?
Would have been probably when we walked back towards his car, towards where he was standing.
You say probably. Do you remember?
I'd have to look at this to remember exactly when and what I said.
So if it doesn't say here, you don't remember?
Some things I do, yes.
Do you remember when you handed him the phone?
When I walked back to the car.
Okay. How long did it take for you to get back to the house?
I am not sure.
When you got back to the house, did you ever take the phone back from Detective Maynard?
At some point, I did.
Did he advise you that he had obtained the passcode from Ms. Richins?
I don't recall.
Do you know what you did with the phone when you got it back?
At some point, I would have taken it back and put it into evidence.
Okay, but you don't remember.
No, ma'am.
Okay, that's fair. I know it was a while ago.
It was.
Just trying to get the difference between what you remember and what you don't, okay? So at some point you said you had another conversation with Kouri where she helped you go to the safes in the house. Is that right?
Correct.
In fact, did you go out and ask her to come in and open the safes?
I believe I asked if she would provide either the code or open the safe so that we didn't have to damage them.
And when you did that, did you advise her she had a right to refuse?
I did not.
Had she been Mirandized to that point?
She had not.
How
That I
many
know of.
how many police officers were on the scene or sheriffs were on the scene while you guys were doing that search?
I'm not sure.
Help you with that. Sorry, just 1 minute, Your Honor. Were there more than 10?
I'm not sure.
Were there more than 5?
More than likely.
Okay. All right, so you asked her to open up the safes. You mentioned that while you were going from place to place in the house, before you went in the house, where was she when you asked her to open up the safes?
I believe she was in her car or a car.
And when you asked her to open up the safes, you guys went inside the house and you also went into the garage and the removed garage. There's kind of 2 garages, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You mentioned when Mr. Bloodworth was talking to you that she was asking you questions about what you had found. Is that right?
Correct.
Was she asking you if you had found any dangerous fentanyl that was a danger to her or her sons?
I believe she was asking that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. At what point were you removed from this case?
I left a little while after I got the dog, so I'm not sure what date or anything that would be.
Okay. When you first got this case, you're from a small town, is that right?
Correct.
And I'm not going to say it, but you knew the Richins family before all this happened, right?
1 second.
Objection, Your Honor. This is far afield of the scope of the pending motion.
Goes to
I'm a
credibility.
little confused where we're going.
Give me just a little bit of leeway, and I think I'll show you. Just give me a couple more questions.
You got to give it a name, though. Is this a?
It's credibility.
All right. I'll give you a limited leeway.
Okay. So you knew the Richins family before you were investigating this case, is that right?
No, I don't think I knew any of these guys. There's a lot of Richins that live there, but I don't think these guys specifically.
You did not?
Not that I recall dealing with them.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have on that, Your Honor. See, just a moment. I think I'm almost finished. Oh, after you guys did the search on the house, you heard from the defendant's lawyer, did you not?
I don't recall.
Okay, may I approach,
Objection,
Your Honor?
Again, anything that happened post-search is irrelevant to the pending motion.
Your Honor, this is because we're gonna have a little bit later today, a challenge to Detective O'Driscoll's interview of Ms. Richins when she was uncounseled. And this is the individual that got the assertion from the lawyer. And so I'm just laying a foundation for when I do O'Driscoll later.
Proffer the assertion.
I do, I have it.
What is it, though? Help me understand.
Oh, that her lawyer asserted Sixth Amendment rights and told them not to speak to her client again.
Will allow them to lay this foundation.
Your Honor, we're gonna have to put a lot of objections onto the record here.
I'm a little bit blind here, so if you can
Sure.
just provide a little context.
So as Ms. Nestor just said, she's making a Sixth Amendment challenge to a later interview. That later interview was conducted on April the 14th, 2022. By April the 14th, 2022, or on April the 14th, 2022, judicial proceedings had not begun. Thus, the Sixth Amendment had not attached. Therefore, any discussion about a Sixth Amendment violation is irrelevant. The Sixth Amendment right to counsel had not yet attached.
Okay. We still have, well, I don't know what Detective O'Driscoll is going to say. This sounds like 2 or 3 questions. Am I right?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to allow some limited latitude here. We'll see if it matters or not later.
Okay, Your Honor.
What I understand Ms. Nestor is going to ask about is a communication or two sent to her by Ms. Richins' prior counsel. Correct, Ms. Nestor?
Yes, sir.
And after that, are we done?
Yes.
This seems reasonable, even if ultimately irrelevant.
I am trying to comply with your request that we lay foundations through the appropriate witnesses.
Sure.
So this would have been part of the case file at the time she left and O'Driscoll took over.
I guess what I'm saying is, why don't we just let these 2 questions come in and then we'll see if we need to ever address this again.
Fair, Your Honor. The state would not object to the admission of these emails. The only thing the state would say is there is also metadata that attaches to the emails that, to the extent the metadata becomes relevant, it's in discovery, of course.
And if we need to get
we
into
can
that, we
consider
can.
that.
Is
in
there any
addition.
reason to suspect that the header of the email regarding to, from, and time and date is incorrect?
No, Your Honor,
Okay.
that's not.
All right. Can I just see him, Ms. Nestor?
Your Honor, this is going to be 152.
Thank you. Ooh, my.
Thank you.
It's very small type.
Take just a minute, Detective Woody, Deputy Woody. Are you still detective? I want to call you the right title.
Just deputy.
Deputy. Will you take a minute to review that and see if those look familiar to you? And I'll give you just a minute and then I'll ask you about them. Honor, can Mr. Bloodworth borrow that copy for 1 second?
In just a moment, my apologies.
Well, yeah. Gotcha.
Just let me know when you're ready. I don't want to rush you.
Okay.
Oh, I was talking to her. Sorry, not
No,
you.
that's okay. If you would hand this to
Yeah.
Mr. Bloodworth for me, that's fine.
I've scanned through it.
Okay.
So I can.
Does it ring a bell? Do you vaguely remember it?
Yeah.
And as I understand it, that is an email and letters that were forwarded to you as the case investigator, informing you that the lawyer did not want Ms. Richins spoken to again outside the presence of counsel. Is that right?
That's what it
Your
looks like.
Honor, objection, that mischaracterizes the emails.
The
and
email
letters.
says what it says.
Yeah.
Can we just have some foundation as to whether or not that email ever made its way through this witness to Detective O'Driscoll?
My next question.
Okay, let's just get that out and we can
Okay.
move on.
When you got this email and these letters, what did you do with them?
A while ago, I don't remember. I'm probably showed my boss, or I would assume.
Who was your boss?
Back then, it would have been probably Detective Davis, maybe.
Davis. And is it your practice that when you get case documents that are related to a case that you take them home or throw them away? What do you do with them?
Generally, they go into a case file.
And did you have a case file on Ms. Richins?
There was a case file, yes.
Physical file
Yes.
that was yours as the chief investigator?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you put those documents in there?
I believe I did, but I can't answer for sure.
And when you left the case, did you provide all of your materials to Detective O'Driscoll?
I did.
Okay. Really quickly to go, that's all I have on that, Your Honor. And we do offer 152.
152 has been offered.
To go back to the warrant, when you came up on Kouri, when she was in Detective Maynard's car, did you ever serve a copy of the warrant on her so she could see that you had a search warrant?
Not at the car, no.
Did you ever give her a copy of the warrant?
We did, yes.
When?
I'm not sure. I know she had a copy at the house, but I don't know when.
And is there some reason that you quit working on this case other than you're wanting to go train your dog?
No, I didn't have enough time for the dog, pretty much.
Okay. I respect that. I think that's all I have, Your Honor. Just a moment.
I just need to get that back from you when you're done, Mr. Bloodworth, to add it to the exhibits. Thank you. Let Ms. Nestor check with co-counsel and then we'll.
You want? Yeah.
Your Honor, we tender the witness. Thank you.
Mr. Bloodworth, anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, may we release this witness, counsel?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're free to go. Thank you. Mr. Bloodworth, does this conclude the state's initial case or do you have more witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the state has 2 more witnesses.
Rough estimate of how much time you have with the first of those people?
15 minutes.
Why don't we call that person?
Okay.
Yeah.
Your Honor, the state calls lead crime scene investigator Chelsea Gibson.
Okay. You may be calling somebody else next, or we may be taking a lunch break. Zag, is Chelsea in the lobby?
No, there's a miscommunication. She's.
That's okay.
Yeah, Your Honor,
That's fine.
when we thought we were
Yeah.
going to break for lunch, we sent her back to her office.
Would you like to take a break now? Would that be better for everybody? We got to take one eventually.
Your Honor, I think we do it. I should be here in a minute.
Okay, sounds good. Ms. Nestor, Ms. Lewis, you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He doesn't eat.
He doesn't eat, yeah. We don't feed him.
Hey, what's up,
I'm just
Jabo?
convinced that you're running the show.
Jabo, you on lunch? What you doing, boo? This is not the Kohberger case. Kohberger is still not being streamed. I've got it up on my second screen. It is live. And in big old words, it says the court is on a break. So they haven't streamed any of that yet. So what we're listening to in the interim is Utah v. Kouri Richins, which is a case wherein Kouri Richins, the defendant, is accused of giving her husband, Eric Richins, a fatal dose of fentanyl in his Moscow Mule that she concocted to celebrate the closing on a house. And it's a very interesting case. Very interesting case. What's going on today is the defense is seeking to suppress all of the evidence that was gathered from Kouri Richins' phone as fruit of the poisonous tree, with the argument being that that phone was taken illegally, as Kouri Richins was not Mirandized. She was in custody, and therefore everything that they found on that phone has to be tossed out because it was an illegal search. So thus far, we've heard 2 law enforcement officers. It's clear she was not Mirandized. It seems clear to me that she was not free to leave. You know, and it's you don't have to be in cuffs to be in custody. So that's one thing. I don't think Kouri ever felt like she's like, you know what, I'm gonna dip out, take care. You know, it's like they've got to, like, why cops just don't, as a matter of just initial instinct, just read their Miranda rights. Like, I mean, why would you ever put yourself in a position to where, knowing that these cases are going to be litigated, you know, why would you ever not just read somebody their rights? It's insane to me. It's insane. You know, I mean, the answer
Ms.
is,
Gibson, if you'll step in front of Brittany, we'll get you sworn in. Thank you.
You know, people tend to, you know, I don't know what the percentage is. I'd say 50-50 that
Do you
people
solemnly swear
actually,
the testimony you're about
clam
to give in
up
the matter before
they're
the
read
court
their
to be the
right.
truth, the whole truth, and
A
nothing
lot
but
of
the truth,
people still
subject to the
talk.
pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you. Please have a seat.
Mr. Bloodworth, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Gibson, are you the lead crime scene investigator for Summit County Sheriff's Office?
Yes,
And have you been a crime scene investigator with the office since, at minimum, April the 13th, 2022?
yes,
As a crime scene investigator for the Sheriff's Office, your duties include phone extractions.
yes, they do.
What computer forensic tool does the Sheriff's Office use for phone extractions?
Celebrate.
What training and experience do you have in using Celebrate?
I'm certified in downloading and analyzing the phones.
And approximately how many phones have you downloaded?
50.
Are you familiar with the defendant's phone taken into evidence on April the 13th, 2022?
Yes,
How are you familiar with that phone?
it was booked into evidence.
And were you the crime scene investigator that took it into evidence or runs that evidence room or whatever?
Correct.
Was that phone an white iPhone Model 12 with an IMEI number ending in 2558?
Yes, it was.
Did there come a time when the Celebrite forensic tool that the sheriff's office used had the capability to extract data from an iPhone Model 12 without using a password?
Yes.
At what point in time did the sheriff's office have that ability?
December of 22.
Did there come a time when the sheriff's office or a partner law enforcement agency extracted the data from that iPhone Model 12 IMEI 2558 without using a passcode?
Yes.
When did that occur?
September of 24.
And did that extraction occur pursuant to a warrant issued on September the 27th, 2024?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Nestor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kathy Nestor. I'm one of the attorneys representing Ms. Richins. I do have a couple of questions for you. So do you work in the Regional Computer Forensics Lab?
No.
So you actually work for Summit County Sheriff.
Correct.
And I heard Mr. Bloodworth ask you, are you the one who took this phone into evidence? Can you expound on that for me? What was your connection? What did you do with this phone?
So when phones are brought to the sheriff's office, I manage the evidence room.
Keep going. I'm sorry. I just need to grab a document.
You're good.
Keep going.
From what I recall, Detective Woody at the time booked it into evidence, placed it into a locker, and then once it's in the locker, then I take custody of it and put it into evidence storage.
Okay. And every time you touch a piece of evidence, you guys keep a log. It's called a chain of custody form. Is that right?
Correct.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
And we would mark this number 153.
All right. What is it?
It's a chain of custody.
Okay, give us one moment.
Deputy Gibson, I'm handing you a document that's marked as a chain of custody form, I guess.
Yes.
Can you look at that and tell me if it looks familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
Is that your handwriting on it?
Yes, it is.
And can you explain what this document is?
It is releasing the phone from me to Detective Crowley to RCFL, back and forth all the way to the RCFL to get the download from the phone, and then chain of custody of that phone coming back to the evidence room.
So let's look at the dates on this. I think you testified earlier that the soonest you were able to download off the phones, the soonest the sheriffs had the software capability to basically crack a phone and download it without a passcode was December of 2022. Is that what you testified?
Correct.
Okay. And the document that you have in front of you, what is the date that you turned over the phone to the RCFL?
5/4 of 22.
May of 22.
Correct.
All right. And at the bottom, there's a comment. What did you write on the comment?
RCFL for phone dumps.
So tell me what that means.
It means it was released to RCFL to obtain a phone download.
And RCFL, just to clarify for the record, it's the Regional Computer Forensics Laboratory that often does do phone dumps, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you gave it to them in May of 22. When did they return it to you? Or when did it get returned, I guess? Who's Crowley? Do you know who Crowley is?
Detective Crowley. He was a detective for Summit County Sheriff's Office at the time.
Okay, so when did the RCFL send the phone back? In other words, we're done with it. Here it is. It's back to you.
July of 22.
Again, before you had the capability to crack it without a passcode, right?
Yes.
And when you got the passcode, were you advised, I mean, when you got the phone, when you got the phone, were you advised they had a passcode for it?
When I received the phone,
Mm-hmm.
I believe there was a passcode on the property tag of the device.
Okay. All right. So you already, and you provided that to RCFL, right?
It was provided, yes.
Okay. Okay. Were you on the scene of the search of this home on April the 12th, the 13th of 2022?
Yes, I was.
Did you ever have the phone in your hands that day?
No, I do not believe so.
Were you aware of anyone looking in the phone that day when you all were at the house, at the Richins home?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you prepare the what's it called? The property seizure form from the search that day, or was that not your job?
I'd have to look at the handwriting to verify if it was me or my coworker at the time.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yep.
Your Honor, this will be exhibit 154.
Thank you.
Doesn't look like that's your handwriting
No.
from what I just looked at. Did you prepare that form?
I did not.
Did you ever see it that day?
Yes.
All right. Can you look through that form? As part of your duties on the scene that day was to kind of make sure that all the evidence that was being gathered was properly accounted for.
Yes.
That was part of your responsibility.
Correct.
Can you look on that form and tell me if you see anywhere that a phone was seized from the home?
There's not on this one.
Okay. Let's. Sorry. Let me hand you another document. May I approach, Your Honor?
Of course.
This is number 155.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand you another form that is titled Evidence from Search. You see the form that says Evidence from Search?
Yes.
It looks like an Excel spreadsheet, something like an Excel.
Yes.
Did you prepare that?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Okay. On that document, the very last entry refers to an iPhone.
Yes.
All the other documents, or most of them, not documents, things that were seized appear to be linked on your spreadsheet to where they were found. Is that right?
Correct.
Where does it indicate the phone was found?
I did not have a location of the phone on this document.
So is there any other thing on that document that you don't know where it was found other than the phone? Or is that the only item?
It looks like there's an item that's titled pills and one titled scene photos.
The pills one, does it say how many pills were seized?
Not on this spreadsheet, no.
Right, I think that's all I have here.
Mr. Bloodworth.
Can we? Yeah. Can the witness keep that? I'm gonna start.
Yeah, I just want to show this to Alex for 1 second, make
Sure.
sure there's not one more question. Your Honor, we tender the witness. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see, this one.
Let's please pick up where the defense counsel left off. 155, I think it's on there. That's the spreadsheet that you said you prepared. Why did you prepare that spreadsheet?
There's a lot of items regarding this case, and there's also several different case numbers regarding the sheet, so it made it a little bit simpler to combine the several cases onto a spreadsheet at that time.
Was it simply a tool for you to use?
Correct.
Please return to Exhibit 154, the property seizure form. You testified that there's no cell phone identified on that property seizure form. Why is that?
And sorry, there is one on here.
There is one on there.
Yes,
But is this the the property seizure form for the Willow Court address, right?
yes,
And it's not the property seizure form for any property that was seized off of the Willow Court address, is that right?
sorry to repeat the question.
It's not. You would not expect to see it on that property sheet.
Correct.
Let's return, please, to the discussion regarding the RCFL. You recall looking at the chain of custody form, which transferred custody of the phone from the sheriff's office to the RCFL and back to the sheriff's office, right?
Yes,
Do you know whether or not the RCFL extracted that phone?
yes, they did.
Did there come a time when the RCFL transferred, I don't know, tell me if it's on a hard drive or however they transfer extractions back to you, the Summit County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, on a hard drive.
Okay, so there came a time when the RCFL transferred the extraction to the Summit County Sheriff's Office, and the Summit County Sheriff's Office has a copy on a hard drive of that extraction.
Correct.
Were you able to access, was the Summit County Sheriff's Office, as far as you know, able to access that extraction?
Not for a while.
Okay. And why not for a while?
And we did not have the capabilities at the time to look at the download.
Do you know if the Summit County Sheriff's Office ever reviewed that extraction?
Sometime after December of 22,
Okay. If at all.
if at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Your Honor, can I follow up on that? That was just newly brought in, just very briefly about the extraction.
Yes.
So I want to make sure I understand. So we looked at the fact that you sent the phone to the RCFL in May of 22, right?
Correct.
And they sent it back to y'all saying we're done with it in July of 2022.
Yes,
And then they sent you what they got off of it on a hard drive.
yes,
And it just took you a while at the sheriff's department to have the software to open their hard drive, right?
yes.
And have you ever seen, let me back that up. You never went back and got a second hard drive from the RCFL. You just ultimately were able to open the one that they gave you back in July of 22.
Correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. May we release this witness?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
You're free to go. Thank you.
Oh, let me get that back.
Thank you. Do you want those copies
There-
back? Mr.
That, here's the one that's marked, Your Honor. I might swap it. I think I got the one that's marked.
54, 55, what do you have? 53. Yes, thank you. Over here are the unmarked copies. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Bloodworth, who's next? In the order.
Your Honor, Detective O'Driscoll.
he might take a little while. Is that correct?
He might.
Okay, why don't we take a reasonable lunch break? Ms. Nestor, tell me what's reasonable.
An hour, Your Honor?
All right, why don't we come back? We'll be ready to go at 2 p.m. Court's in recess until that time. Thank you.
Personnel. Of course, they're always on, as long as it's not anything living or breathing. That's okay. We'll use the one amended one. We'll go with that. Yeah.
No, unless you.
Thank you. I thought I did that maybe inadvertently, but the amended is both the one. Very good. So maybe you two will go with that. Thank you.
I'm gonna take this.
Bob, you're muted. Bob, you're muted. Bob, you're muted.
Wow, that worked like a
Bob,
million
you're
bucks.
muted. Bob, you're muted.
All right, it's on a
Bob, you're
loop.
muted.
Got to turn
Bob,
the
you're
loop
muted.
off. There you go. That worked great though. But I wasn't even on the screen. So we're going to take a break. I'm setting up a third stream. I will keep an eye on Kohberger. If that starts in the interim, there's going to be an hour lunch break. It's saying court will begin soon. That doesn't mean that the streaming will start. I'm still looking at it. If that starts, I will start up right away. I'll start the live. I'm gonna once again portal you guys or redirect you guys to the new stream, and we will rock and roll. If it's still not going by the time they come back from lunch, we will come back and keep listening to Kouri Richins. This suppression hearing is interesting. I think it's a valid motion to suppress, and we're going to hear a more significant witness than the last two that we have heard. It's interesting because we don't know if they actually searched the phone prior to the full extraction. So, you know, I think the argument from the defense would be, well, we have no idea what they did, you know, while they had the phone illegally pursuant to her. You know, the state's going to argue she consented to it by handing it over to them. That's what they're going to argue. So it's very interesting, and it's critical. It's critical evidence for the state in this case. Like if that phone goes away, it's very damaging to the case. And I saw somebody asking about if they could call the witnesses in which she was emailing and or texting in order to try to get them to get it into evidence. You're going to have some real hearsay issues there. Ones in which I don't know they'd be able to overcome. So, all right, hold on. I'm going to go here and I am going to portal you guys one more time to the new stream, which I've already set up. See, this actually is tech wizardry by me, if I don't say so myself. Okay, set up. All right, so you guys will portal over there. I'm going to keep an eye on everything. You guys go get food, eat, do some brisk calisthenics, read a book, watch some TV, scratch your back, take a shower. take a nap, any of those wonderful things. Just keep your volume on full blast. And when my voice starts screaming in your ear, you'll know that we're live. All right, you guys are amazing. You guys know I love you. So without you, I'm just an old man talking about a whole shitload of cases. See you in a minute. Bye.